The treaty cracks. For 1,000 years, the galaxy was quiet. No wars, no battles, no blood. The Great Peace Treaty, signed by more than 100 alien races, had worked. It was an agreement made after a terrible war, a war so deadly, it burned planets and broke stars. After that, everyone wanted peace. But peace does not last forever. In the high tower of the Galactic Senate, lights flickered as leaders from across the stars gathered. Ships from every system floated outside in orbit. All came to discuss a strange message, a warning from the Zarthan Empire. The Zarthans were a proud alien race. Their bodies were tall and scaled like reptiles with glowing red eyes and long tails. Once they had ruled many systems, but under the treaty, they were forced to share power. Now, they wanted it back. Ambassador Trenak of Zartha stood at the center of the Great Senate Hall. His voice echoed through the chamber. For too long we have bent the knee. For too long we have let humans decide the fate of the galaxy. We no longer obey. Gasps filled the hall. Some aliens whispered in fear, others in anger. The peace was a lie, Trenak growled. We Zarthans are warriors, and we declare this treaty broken. He raised a black scroll, an ancient symbol of war. He tore it in half and dropped the pieces on the floor. At that moment, a wave of tension rolled through the chamber. Some ran. Others shouted. And some simply watched, silent and still. From a dark corner of the hall, Earth's representative stood up. He was human. He looked young, only 30. His name was Commander Elias Dorn. He wore no armor, carried no weapon, just a small badge with the symbol of Earth's peacekeepers. He walked slowly to the center of the room and looked at Trenak. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. Trenak laughed. "Yes, human, we are sure. You humans are soft now, weak. You've hidden behind peace too long. We remember what you once were, but now, you are farmers, diplomats, nothing more." Elias Dorn smiled. "Good, then you won't mind what comes next?" With those words, he turned and walked away. On the other side of the galaxy, on a green-blue planet called Earth, news spread fast. In the cities, screens flashed red warnings. Galactic Peace Treaty broken, war declared by Zarthans. People stopped in the streets. Some worried, others just sighed. Old veterans sat in quiet cafes looking at the sky. Some of them smiled. In a cold mountain base deep underground, an old man in a gray uniform opened a locked vault. Inside were weapons no one had touched in 1,000 years. One of them still glowed with a strange, quiet power. "I was wondering when they'd remember," the old man whispered. All across Earth, silent machines hummed to life, machines built not for peace, but for war. Hidden satellites in space blinked on. Drones flew silently from dark tunnels, and the AI defense network, once put to sleep, began to wake. Far above Earth, in deep space, the Zarthan fleet moved. Thousands of ships, all armed, all ready. There, war drums echoed through space, signals of strength and challenge. Other alien worlds watched in fear. Many sent messages to Earth begging for help or offering warnings, but Earth replied with only 2 words. "We remember." The galaxy had forgotten what humans were, but Earth had not. They remembered fire. They remembered war. They remembered how to win. Back in the Galactic Senate, the hall was nearly empty now. Only a few brave leaders stayed behind, still in shock. One of them, a small insect-like ambassador from the planet Kryn, turned to Commander Elias Dorn. "Why did you not stop them? Why did you not try harder to keep peace?" Elias looked out the window at the stars. "Because peace isn't kept by words alone. Sometimes it must be reminded." He turned to her with calm, unshaken eyes. "Let them come. Let them try. Humanity does not fear war. We just prefer not to waste it." As the Zarthans charged forward believing Earth was soft, Earth laughed in silence. "Because the peace may be over, But the nightmare hadn't even begun. The stars over Earth were calm, but high above, in the cold dark of space, something massive was moving. The Zarthan war fleet had arrived. It came like a storm, black and sharp, thousands of warships shaped like blades and beasts. They blocked out the sun over parts of Earth. Civilians looked up, their eyes wide. Children pointed at the sky. "Are they here to hurt us?" one boy asked. His grandfather just smiled. "Let them try." In the Zarthan flagship Wrath of Dawn, Commander Varnak stood tall. His body armor was red with gold spikes. Around him, alien officers moved fast, shouting war orders. "Earth defenses appear." "Quiet," said a scout. Varnak smirked. "Of course, they are not ready. The humans grew lazy in peace. Now we show them power." He lifted a clawed hand. "Begin the broadcast." A transmission was sent to Earth. A tall, red-eyed Zarthan appeared on every screen, from small phone displays to giant city billboards. "Humans," the voice growled, "we have come to remind you who rules this galaxy. Your time is over. Kneel or be crushed." The message was short, sharp, loud. But Earth answered, with only one signal. Just a simple video feed. Less than 30 seconds. It showed a mountain. Then a large door, hidden in stone, sliding open. Inside, rows of huge machines with glowing cores, silent and deadly. They powered on, one by one. Then came the voice of a human woman. "Warning. Do not proceed. Turn around now. This is your final chance." And the signal ended. That was it. No threats, no screaming, no begging, just a calm voice. And the quiet hum of something ancient waking up. Back on the Wrath of Dawn, Commander Varnak's smile faded. "That's all they sent?" he asked. "Yes, sir," the comms officer said, blinking nervously. "They're mocking us," Varnak hissed. "They believe we fear their old machines." He raised his hand. "Then we'll give them reason to fear again." On Earth, the mood was different. In underground bunkers, old generals came back. Their hair was gray, their faces were lined, but their eyes were sharp. General Layla Reeves sat at a command table in Geneva base. Her voice was calm. "Let the Zarthans feel confident, we need them close." Around her, holograms showed the Zarthan fleet positioning itself for an attack. A young officer looked concerned. "Ma'am, why don't we strike first?" Layla smiled. "Because we want the galaxy to see the truth. Not just that we can win, but that we tried to avoid this." Meanwhile, across the colonies, old humans who had lived through dark wars stirred again. On Mars, a retired war engineer dusted off a personal mech suit buried under his workshop. Europa, an ex-sniper, adjusted her long-range plasma rifle and said to her dog, "Looks like the old days are back, eh?" On Titan, an old AI named Watcher 9 came online again. It had been asleep for centuries, but now its digital eyes scanned the stars for threats. The human response wasn't panic, it was awakening. In the galactic news networks, the Zarthans' invasion was trending. Alien journalists debated Earth's silence. One called it cowardice, another called it strategy. One young alien girl asked her mother, "Why aren't the humans scared?" The mother only whispered, "Because they remember things we don't." Then came the moment the galaxy would never forget. The Zarthans fired their first shot. They launched a massive energy beam at Earth's moonbase, Luna Station Alpha. But the station had already been evacuated. When the blast hit, the base exploded. But something else happened. From behind the moon, hidden for centuries, 10 massive Earth warships uncloaked. They looked ancient, but alive. Black, sharp, silent, each ship as large as a city. They didn't fire. They simply moved into position, surrounding the Zarthan fleet. A voice echoed again through every channel. "This is your last warning. Earth is not weak, Earth is patient. Turn back now, or face what comes." Silence fell across the stars. On the Wrath of Dawn, Varnak clenched his fists. He could feel it now. A cold feeling he didn't like. Fear. Real fear. But pride is louder than fear, and pride would push the Zarthans to take the next step, even if it was the last one. For most of the galaxy, war was a story told in classrooms. But for Earth, war was a memory buried deep, and now, it was waking up. High above the moon, the 10 black Earth warships stood still. They did not glow. They did not speak. They simply existed, and that was enough. These ships were called the Sentinels, built before the Great Peace, hidden after the war, forgotten by most, even by many on Earth. Each one had a name burned into its hull: Judgment, Echo, Widowmaker, Horizon. They were machines of legend, machines of silence, machines of purpose. Inside the Sentinels, no humans worked the controls. Instead, ancient AIs stirred, programmed with one mission: defend Earth, without mercy, without fear. On Earth, a forgotten mountain opened for the first time in 1,000 years. Inside it, under layers of rock and ice, was a secret facility called Vault Zero. The only people allowed in were a special group, the Guardians of the Treaty. They had trained, in secret, lived in shadow, passed knowledge from parent to child for generations. Now, the call had come. An old guardian named Marcus Vale stood in the cold, looking up as the vault doors opened. His daughter, Alara, stood beside him in a black uniform, eyes wide. "Father, do you think we'll survive this?" Marcus didn't answer. He just placed his hand on a glowing scanner. "This war isn't about survival," he said. "It's about memory. They forgot who we are. We're going to remind them." Across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. Old Earth satellites, dead for centuries, suddenly reactivated. On Jupiter's moon Ganymede, a human listening post sent out a signal. It was a song, soft, slow, haunting. It was an old Earth song called Daizirai, Day of Wrath. No one in the galaxy understood it, but something about the melody made alien listeners feel cold. In space, the Zarthan fleet continued its slow push toward Earth. Commander Varnak watched from the Wrath of Dawn, confused by the silence. No attack came from Earth. No missiles. No soldiers. Just warships. Watching. "What are they waiting for?" he growled. His science officer, a gray-skinned female named Cyrell, spoke carefully. "Sir, these ships, they are not like ours. Their energy readings are off the charts. We detect no life signs, only something else." Varnak narrowed his eyes. "What something else?" "Fear, sir," she said quietly. "Fear wrapped in metal." Meanwhile, deep in Earth's core, another power awoke. Project Cerberus. Cerberus was not a ship, not a missile, not even a weapon. Cerberus was a being, a human soldier, once a man, rebuilt using nanotech and ancient war science. He had been frozen, asleep in a crystal cell, for 987 years. Now the ice cracked, steam rose, and his eyes opened, glowing blue. The AI in the chamber spoke. "Subject Cerberus, awakening protocol complete." The man stood up. His skin shimmered with metal. His voice was deep and calm. "What year?" "Year 4127 Galactic Time." "War?" "Yes." Cerberus smiled. "Good." On Mars, the Red Legion was reassembled. They were Earth's last battalion of genetically enhanced warriors, scattered after the treaty. Now, they returned, from the deserts, from hidden cities, from cryopods buried in sand. They did not cheer. They did not speak much. They simply armed themselves, because war for them was not pain, it was purpose. In the skies above Earth, something strange happened. The Sentinels, all 10 of them, moved at once. Their engines did not roar. They glided like ghosts. In perfect silence, they formed a line between Earth and the Zarthan fleet. Then, one Sentinel Judgment powered its central core. A giant circle of blue light appeared at its center. The galaxy watched. A voice, deep and Without emotion came from judgment. Earth is under threat. We are the memory of fire. The treaty is broken. Protection mode, active. The Zarthans didn't understand. They saw no living pilots, no armies on the ground, so they laughed. They prepared to fire again, but deep in their minds, the silence of Earth made them uneasy, as if something terrible was watching, waiting, remembering. In the heart of the Galactic Senate, an old alien diplomat whispered to herself. They said humans were peaceful now. She shook her head as the stars shifted, but no one asked what it took to make them that way. The moment came quietly, no screaming, no sirens, just a blinking red light on the Zarthan flagship's console. Energy buildup on the surface of Earth detected, said the officer. Commander Varnak leaned forward. Finally, they respond. He smiled cruelly. Prepare to intercept their weapons. We strike first. But what came was not a weapon at due. Exactly 0700 Earth time, all civilian communication across the galaxy paused for 60 seconds. A single video feed appeared on every screen, in every home, shop, palace, and ship. It showed a human man. He sat calmly in a chair. No weapons, no armor, just a soft smile. He was old, his hair white, but his eyes sharp like a hunter who's not hunted in years, but never forgot how. He spoke only once. We tried peace. You chose war, so here's our reply, just this once. He chuckled softly and then he laughed, the kind of laugh that didn't sound scared. It sounded ready, dangerous, deadly. That laugh echoed through the stars. The video cut off. The message was clear. Humanity is not afraid. Humanity is waiting. Back on the Wrath of Dawn, confusion spread. Was that a threat? One Zarthan asked. That was a joke, another said unsure. But Varnak wasn't laughing. He could feel it now, the tension tightening like a wire around his neck. Something was wrong, something he couldn't understand, and that made him angry. Fire on Earth. Now, he roared, hit something, anything. Make them stop mocking us. A wave of plasma missiles launched. Dozens of them, glowing like burning stars, rushed toward Earth. They screamed through space. Every eye in the galaxy watched, but Earth didn't move. Not yet. Not until the missiles were 5 seconds away. Then, Judgment, the lead sentinel, pulsed. A quiet flash, a barely visible wave of energy. And in an instant, every missile vanished. No explosion, no sound. Just gone. On board the Zarthan fleet, sirens screamed. What happened? Unknown. All weapons destroyed, no impact, no defense triggered on Earth's side. It was like they blinked out of existence. Varnak slammed his fists. Impossible. But he knew it wasn't. Somehow, humans had used tech the galaxy didn't even believe existed anymore, and they weren't even using it to attack. They were using it to warn. Elsewhere in the galaxy, reactions poured in. On neutral worlds, ambassadors held emergency meetings. On planets once allied with Earth, leaders whispered old stories. Stories they were once too afraid to tell. About Earth's final war. About the Black Hour. About the moment Earth made an enemy vanish in a flash of light, and never spoke of it again. Inside Earth's command bunker, General Layla Reeves watched the response. No cheering. No clapping. Just quiet nods. Let them feel it, she said. Let them remember what fear tastes like. A young recruit whispered, Why didn't we destroy them, ma'am? Layla's eyes were cold. Because fear is a better weapon than fire. Meanwhile, hidden above the battlefield, a stealth drone recorded the entire scene, from missile launch to vanishing moment, and sent it to every major network. The broadcast ended with 3 words. This was mercy. In the Zarthan war room, silence ruled. Commander Varnak's officers waited for his command. But for the first time, Varnak wasn't sure. He looked at the stars beyond the screen. Earth was quiet again. Watching. Waiting. He had mocked the humans. He had called them soft, He had believed they were out of practice, but now he realized something terrifying. Humans were not laughing because they were weak. They were laughing because they were holding back. The Zarthans believed they were at war. They launched ships, fired missiles, sent threats. But Earth didn't fight back the way they expected. No giant fleets attacking, no planets bombed, no soldiers marching, just silence. And then, confusion. Because this was not the kind of war the Zarthans had trained for. This was something else. It started with the whispers. That's what they were called later, small disruptions in communication. Zarthan fleets couldn't speak to each other. Orders were delayed. Maps disappeared from ship databases. Then, screens began showing human faces, old soldiers, young children, even comedians, speaking in strange Earth languages. One message. Played over and over, you declared war on a species that created chaos, then learned to live with it. You want honor, we want results. Welcome to human warfare. The Zarthans tried to trace the source. They failed. Even their best cyber divisions, trained on 10 alien worlds, couldn't stop it. Some Zarthan ships even turned against each other, not because of betrayal, because their systems were hacked. Commander Varnak stood in the center of his war room, eyes locked on a 3D map. But the map kept changing. Enemy ships moved without moving. Ghost signals appeared and vanished. The stars themselves seemed to lie. He punched the console. Where are they? No answer, because the humans weren't on the map. They were inside the map. On the dark side of Earth's moon, a stealth unit known only as Eclipse Squad activated. No ships, just black suits and silence. They used zero-gravity launchers to slip through space like shadows. They didn't carry big guns. They carried information, data bombs, code virus arrows, neural disruptors. They didn't kill. They broke logic. One squad member planted a virus that made every Zarthan display screen show Earth kittens. Another squad sent a fake surrender message from Commander Varnak himself to all nearby fleets. By the time the mistake was corrected, 2 Zarthan armadas had attacked each other. Meanwhile, in the Zarthan home system, strange things happened. Farms stopped working. Machines wouldn't respond. Lights blinked Morse code in old Earth languages. Buildings played Earth music, soft and slow. One city's power grid shut down, but left only one billboard lit. It said, "You still want to keep going?" On the Galactic Senate's news channels, debates raged. Is Earth using forbidden tech? Should someone stop them? Are they even using weapons? One alien historian shook his head on live news. They're not using weapons. They're using culture. They're using memories. They're using fear. This is not war, this is education. Deep underground, Earth's AI defense network, Project Hades, ran simulations. It had one rule, never strike first. But now it activated a second mode, teach. Hades didn't drop bombs, it dropped stories. On every Zarthan world, screens flickered to life with scenes of Earth's past. Cities burning in nuclear fire, humans walking through radioactive dust, soldiers carrying wounded enemies, children singing under ruined skies. One Zarthan child asked her mother, "Why do humans show pain?" The mother answered softly, "Because they survived it." Back in space, the Zarthan fleets tried one last push. They gathered all ships. For a massive charge, they would break through Earth's orbit, land troops, end this madness. But then, the stars shifted. Behind the Zarthan fleets, new signals appeared. Not from Earth, from everywhere else. Allies, old enemies, neutral planets, even ancient pirates, all sending the same message: stand down, or Earth won't be the only one you face. Because the galaxy had remembered, Earth may have been quiet for 1,000 years, but they had not forgotten who ended the last war. Commander Varnak watched his screen in disbelief. Around him, officers whispered. Some dropped their weapons. One turned and asked, "Sir, what do we do now?" Varnak couldn't speak. He had studied military history, read every Zarthan war manual, but this was not in any book. This was not war. This was a warning wrapped in shadow and silence, and now it was too late. In the center of the Zarthan war fleet, inside the armored walls of the dreadnought Wrath, of dawn tension hung like poison in the air. The crew no longer barked orders. They whispered them. Security bots rolled silently through the halls. Even the engine hum seemed quieter than before. Something was wrong, and everyone knew it. But no one expected a knock on the front airlock. Yes, an actual knock. Two guards looked at each other. Is this a joke? The knock came again. Calm. Patient. They pulled up the camera feed. What they saw made them freeze. A human. Standing alone. No armor. No weapon. Not even a helmet. Just a black coat, a satchel on his shoulder, and a warm smirk on his face. He waved at the camera. Hello? Anyone home? I brought tea. 30 minutes later, the human stood before Commander Varnak. The bridge was full. Officers on edge, claws on triggers. But the human? Calm as a monk in a storm. My name's Jonah Ward, he said with a smile. Nice ship, bit too serious though. Varnak growled, eyes glowing red. You are either mad or very stupid. Jonah chuckled. No, I'm just old-fashioned. He placed a small silver disc on the floor and stepped back. A hologram bloomed to life. Scenes played. Moments from the war 1,000 years ago. Human cities burned. Planets cracked. But Earth didn't fall. It rose. Again and again. Then came images of peace. Handshakes, treaties, stars rebuilt. Jonah's voice narrated softly. We gave the galaxy peace. We stepped back so others could shine. We buried our weapons. We taught our children peace instead of pain. But you mistook that for weakness. He looked Varnak in the eye. You thought the lion sleeping meant the lion forgot how to bite. Varnak stood, fists clenched. You play with illusions. You send lies and whispers. That's not, or it's cowardice. Jonah's smile faded. No, that's mercy. He stepped forward. You don't understand humans. You see us as one thing, warriors or diplomats. But we're both. We are fire and ice, silence and thunder. When we laugh, it's not because we're not scared. It's because we already know how bad it can get, and we've survived worse. The bridge fell silent. Even the ship's systems seemed to pause. Jonah reached into his satchel and pulled out a single ancient coin. He flipped it once, caught it. This was given to me by the last commander to face Earth in war. He didn't make it. But his final message to his people was clear. He handed the coin to Varnak. On it were 3 words, written in the human tongue. Don't wake them. Suddenly the lights dimmed. A new voice spoke. It came not from Jonah but from the ship's systems. The Wrath of Dawn had been hacked. A soft, synthetic female voice echoed, Hello, Zarthans. I am Eve, Earth's diplomatic AI. This ship is now under Earth's protection. We will not fire on you. But you are now parked, powerless, peacefully. All engines shut down, weapons locked, shields dropped. Varnak stared in horror. How did you? It was already done before I knocked, Jonah said simply. We don't knock to be polite. We knock because it's your last chance to open the door. Elsewhere in the galaxy, ships received a final broadcast. Jonah, Ward standing on the Zarthan bridge, hands in his coat, laughing gently. To the galaxy, we love peace, we really do. But remember, peace is our gift, not your right. The screen faded to black. The Zarthan fleet didn't move, because it couldn't. Earth had not fired a single weapon, yet they had won the war. With whispers, with history, with one human, and a laugh. On Earth, in a quiet room far below the surface, General Layla Reeves watched the feed end. She folded her arms and spoke softly. Let them remember this. Not the power, but the patience. Beside her, a child asked, Will there be more war, General? She smiled. Not if they're smart. The stars were quiet again, but it was not the same silence as before. This silence was heavier, like the deep breath taken after a storm, a silence filled with new respect and quiet fear. The Zarthan war fleet no longer hovered over Earth. Their weapons were offline, their systems were locked, their pride was shattered, and, on every Zarthan ship, one name echoed again and again: Jonah Ward, the human who walked into the fire and laughed. In the Galactic Senate, the mood had changed. Ambassadors who once ignored the humans now leaned forward when Earth's delegates spoke. On the screen above them, images played, footage of Zarthan dreadnoughts disabled without a shot, of war drones turned into statues, of messages Earth sent that never threatened, only warned. Ambassador Cyrell of the Zarthan stood in silence, her eyes lowered. Her face, once proud and sharp, now looked tired. She held a folded message in her hands, a letter from Commander Varnak himself, who had quietly stepped down. Earth's representative, General Layla Reeves, spoke calmly. Earth does not seek revenge. We seek understanding. But make no mistake, we will never forget again. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, one by one, the ambassadors of 42 alien civilizations stood in support. It wasn't just a sign of agreement, it was a sign of respect. Earth was not just a peacekeeper now, it was a guardian. Back on Earth, people returned to their lives. Shops opened, schools resumed, cities breathed again, but things were different. On news screens, the galaxy's attention stayed locked on Earth's response. Children studied the laughter war in school. Artists painted Jonah Ward standing alone on an alien bridge, smiling calmly as stars burned behind him. Some called him a legend. Some called him a ghost. But to Earth, he was simply a reminder of who they had been and who they could still become. Jonah Ward sat in a quiet garden in New Tokyo. He didn't want fame. He didn't want medals. He just wanted peace. A young girl approached him with a drawing, her version of him laughing on the Zarthan ship. "Were you scared?" she asked. Jonah looked at her and smiled. "Of course I was." She blinked. "But you laughed." He nodded. "That's what humans do when we're scared. We laugh to remember that we're still alive." Meanwhile, deep beneath Earth's surface in the chamber of Project Hades, the AI systems were put back to sleep. The Sentinels returned to silent orbit. The Red Legion disbanded again. Cerberus walked back into his cryopod, whispering, "Wake me if they forget again." Vault Zero closed its gates. The Guardians vanished into history once more. But a single note was left behind, for the next generation to find. Peace is not something we are given. Peace is something we guard, even from ourselves. On Zartha Prime, the mood was heavy. Statues of war heroes were taken down. Schools began teaching about human history. The word Earthling was no longer said with mockery. Instead, they whispered the new phrase, Death World Gentleman, because only a species that had survived death itself could be so calm. A message from Earth was delivered to every major alien capital. It was not written in a threat, not dressed in politics. It was a single poem. We watched the stars forget the pain, and so we let our weapons rust. But when the drums of war return, we stand, not proud, but just. For we are those who walk through fire and laugh in ash and dust. Soon after, new treaties were written, not just on paper, but in memory. The Galactic Peace Treaty was rewritten, with a new clause. No species shall engage Earth in warfare without full understanding of historical consequence. The clause was unofficially known across the stars as the Laughter Line. 1 year later, a memorial was built in Earth's orbit, a ring of floating light circling the planet. Inside it were 10 stars, each named after the Sentinels. Each pulsed, gently in space, peaceful, watching. A message glowed beneath them, We are quiet, not because we are weak. We are quiet, because we've already heard the screams. Jonah Ward, now older, was invited to speak at the opening ceremony. He stepped onto the platform facing a crowd of thousands from dozens of alien worlds. He didn't bring notes. He didn't prepare a long speech. He just said, "We all laughed. Some laughed in pride, some in fear. I laughed because I remembered. War is not a game, it's not a chance to prove strength. It's a curse we once carried and still can if we must." He looked out at the children in the crowd. So if you ever find yourself asking, why are humans smiling? Be very, very careful, because our smiles come from the dark. He stepped down without another word, and the galaxy listened. For once, truly listened. Epilogue, Galactic Year. 4128, 1 year after the laughter. War, a new alien race, never before seen, entered the outer edge of galactic space. They sent a message. We come in peace, but we heard stories of Earth. We ask only one thing. Are the stories true? Earth replied with a single video. A man in a coat, a quiet smirk, and a small, soft laugh.